Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is get our papers ready to paint, and we're going to label all 12 colors of the color wheel so that we make sure we have one of each of the colors. So you're going to get one large paper and one small paper. Set the small paper aside, and we're going to start with your large paper. The first thing you're going to do is fold the large paper in half. So I folded it in half like a book. Then I'm going to turn the paper that's folded, and I'm going to fold it in half again like a book, taking the left side, bringing it over to the right side, or vice versa. Taking the left side and bringing it over to the right side. So I folded in half a second time. Now I'm going to turn my paper again and bring the right side over to the left side for one final fold. You're going to then open up each fold. So as I open up the last fold, I'm going to fold it back the other direction. Open up the fold, fold it back the opposite direction. Fold it back the opposite direction. So now I have 8 equal boxes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So in the first box, we're going to label with our pencil. R for red. Small and in the corner, not some giant letter R, because we're going to be cutting out leaves from each of these boxes. So we want our letter to be small and in the corner. The next color that we're going to label in the next box corner is Y for yellow. Blue, B, O, orange, G, green, and V, violet. Now we're on to our intermediate colors that have 2 names, so we'll be writing 2 letters in each box. So this first box we're going to label yellow green, Y, G, and yellow orange, Y, O. R, Y, B, O, G, V, Y, G, Y, O. Flip it over and write your name and the day you have art. Set it aside and get out your small paper. We're going to fold this paper in half 2 times to make 4 boxes. So I have my paper horizontal, not vertical. I'm going to take the right side, make it meet the left side, fold it in half, turn it, take the right side, make it meet the left side, and crease it. Now I'm going to open up each of these folds and fold it back. And now it's in front of me vertical, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4 boxes. So in this top left box, we're going to label red orange, R, O. Top right box, red violet, R, V. Bottom box, blue violet, and right box, blue green. I'm going to give each table an egg tray of the primary and secondary colors, a water basin, and then a small plate with a sponge on it. Notice the sponge is spongy side up, not scrubby side up, spongy side up. And I want you to paint in each of these boxes with the color. So R is short for red, so you're going to get some red on your dry paintbrush, and you're going to paint this box red. Now you can paint over the top of the R if you want, because we don't need it anymore now that you know this is where red goes, and you're painting this in. Paint it in nice and neat. Fill in the rectangle completely. Don't leave any white paper poking through the paint. Make sure you paint it on nice and solid. You're going to be painting the edges, so you're going to get a lot of paint on your placemat, and that's why we have it there. Okay, so the next color is yellow. So I need to rinse my messy paintbrush off. I'm going to use the teeth at the bottom of the water basin, rub my paintbrush across. I need to make sure all the paint is off, even if I got some paint on this gold handle, that it's all off. And then I pull it across the sponge to dry it off. I don't push it, I pull it. And I'm not taking it and jamming it into the sponge, because that just ruins the paintbrush. So the next color is yellow. Now I've got some red on my placemat here, so I want to be careful not to get yellow on that red that's on the placemat. I also want to be careful not to get yellow mixed with the red here in the middle. So be real careful as I go right along the edge and paint this in. Nice and solid again, no white paper showing. Fill in all the white areas. So now I'm going to rinse my paintbrush off. Make sure there's no paint on the gold handle. Dry it off, pull it across the sponge. And the last primary color is blue. So I'm going to paint this last rectangle down here with blue. Okay, I'm finished with the blue. So I'm going to rinse my paintbrush off. Dry it off. And this box has an O in it, so it's orange. So I'm going to paint orange in this last box. So we did the 3 primaries, so now we're doing our secondary colors. And orange is a secondary color. Now I want to be careful not to get the orange mixed in with the wet blue paint here along the edge. Oh no, I dripped orange on my yellow here, but I'm just going to leave it. I don't want to smear it and make it worse, so I'm going to leave those little droplets of orange on there. I was a little sloppy. So now I put my paintbrush in the water and I'm finished with this paper, so this needs to be picked up carefully and put over on the drying rack. Now I'm going to take my second paper that has the other 2 secondary colors on it, and I'm going to paint those boxes. So I need to rinse my paintbrush off all the way. Make sure there's no paint on the gold. Dry off my paintbrush. And then green is next with the G. So I'm going to paint my next box green. Okay, rinse my paintbrush off. I'm finished with green. Dry it off. And the last secondary color is V for violet. Okay, I'm going to rinse my paintbrush off. Oh, I've got some purple on the gold here, so I need to swish that around and get that off there. And now I'm going to dry my paintbrush off. I don't want to take paint that's on the gold and put it on the sponge, because then the sponge won't be clean. Okay, so now we're on to our intermediate and tertiary colors. And so the first one that I have here is yellow-green. So now we have to mix. Up until now, the colors that we needed were in this tray. So now we have to make our intermediate or tertiary colors. And so now you're going to need a mixing tray. You're going to mix your own colors for each box. So the first intermediate tertiary color that we're going to mix is yellow-green. So that means this color, we need to mix yellow and green together. So I have a nice clean paintbrush. I'm going to start with yellow. I'm going to get a scoop of yellow on my paintbrush, and I'm going to put it in one of these little circles here. And I'm going to get another scoop of yellow right in the circle. And what I do is I pull this paintbrush across the edge of the circle to get that paint off my paintbrush and into this where I need it. Now, I can't put this in the green and get green because we're mixing yellow and green together. So I have to rinse my paintbrush off. Because if I put my messy paintbrush in this green and I mix yellow in it, I'm ruining the paint for everybody at my table. And so everybody around me is not going to be very happy if I mess up the colors for them. So I'm going to dry the paintbrush off. I'm going to get a little bit of green, one scoop of green, and this will be enough. Whenever you're mixing intermediate or tertiary colors, you need a little bit of the darker color and a lot of the, and more, not a lot, but more of the lighter color. So I got 1 scoop of green and 2 scoops of yellow. And you know you've mixed this right if this green looks different than this green. So it almost looks the same, doesn't it? It's a little too close. So I'm going to pull my paintbrush across and get the paint out of my paintbrush. I'm going to rinse my paintbrush off. I'm going to dry my paintbrush off, and I'm going to get some more yellow and mix the yellow in there. All right, and then this gets painted in the yellow-green box. Now, hopefully you mix enough to fill in the rectangle. You make it stretch. So, see, I don't have a lot of paint left, and my rectangle's not finished, but you can make this stretch because you've got paint inside your paintbrush that you can't see. And if you pull your paintbrush and pull this wet paint down, you can make it stretch into the rectangle to fill the rectangle. So there's my yellow-green, so I'm going to rinse my paintbrush off, dry it off. And so my next intermediate or tertiary color is yellow-orange. So I'm going to get some yellow on my paintbrush. I'm going to get 3 scoops this time, since I needed 3 for my yellow-green. And I just pull it across the circle here. I didn't put it right next to the yellow-green because I didn't want them to get mixed up and touch. So now I rinse my paintbrush off, and I'm making yellow-orange. So I need yellow, and what other color? Orange. And orange is the darker color, so I only need 1 paintbrush full. And I'll mix that around. And there is my yellow-orange color that looks different than that orange. And I'm going to paint that in this box here. I don't want you to mix a color twice. If you will not run out. If you mix the way I did, 3 scoops of your light color and 1 scoop of your darker color, you'll be able to make it stretch and fit. If you feel like you need to mix some more, you need to come talk to me, and I'll take a look and see what we can do. But that stretched really well. And remember, a lot of this paint is inside your paintbrush. You can't even see it. And if you push down and pull, that paint's going to come out of there. All right, so this goes in the bowl of water, and this paper is finished being painted. So I'm going to carefully pick this up, and I'm going to go put this on the drying rack. All right, and now for my final paper, my final 4 colors, and they all have to be mixed because they're all intermediate tertiary. So I'm going to rinse my paintbrush off, dry it off. The first one is red-orange. So red and orange, they're pretty equal in lightness and darkness. So I think I'm going to pick orange as the lighter and get 3 scoops. I'm going to rinse my paintbrush off, dry my paintbrush off. The reason that you have to dry your paintbrush off between colors is because you don't want water in your paintbrush, because then this paint will get all watery and runny and it won't be a nice dark color. And 1 scoop of red. Okay, that doesn't look like it changed much, so I'm going to do a 2nd scoop of red. Okay, rinse my paintbrush off, dry it off. Okay, red-violet is next. Red is the lighter color, so I'm going to put 3 scoops of red, rinse my paintbrush off, dry it off, and a scoop of violet. Okay, I'm going to rinse my paintbrush off, dry it off. Okay, and now I have blue-violet. Blue and violet are pretty equal in color, but I'm going to do 3 scoops of violet. Actually, I think violet is the lighter color for sure. So 3 scoops of violet. And 1 scoop of blue. And mix that around. Definitely, blue is definitely the darker, so only 1 scoop of blue is all that you need. All right, and the last one is blue-green. So green is the lighter color. 3 scoops of green. Rinse my paintbrush off. And a scoop of blue. Okay, and there's my blue-green. So my paintbrush goes in the bowl of water. I, as a teacher, will handle the water basins and the paintbrushes. I will also handle the sponges and the paper plates. This paper will need to go on the drying rack. And then you're going to take this over to the sink, your mixing tray. And you're going to turn the water on, but you don't want to turn it on too hard. Turn it on just going out a little bit. And then you're going to run the water on top of this and use a sponge and clean out each section of paint. This tray should look like it did when you got it. So any paint mess that you have, you're going to run water down from the faucet on it, but not real hard, and you're going to rinse out each of the spaces. Then you're going to get a dry paper towel, not a wet one, a dry one, and you're going to wipe at your placemat. Now, I'm not asking for you to clean your placemat off. I'm asking you to dry it off. This is not clean, this is messy. But I want you to dry it off so that we can put this back on the stack and the placemats don't get stuck together. Good job, second grade. All right, second grade, so now that you have all of your papers painted in the 12 colors of the color wheel, you're going to now use these leaf patterns to trace onto the back of the colors. And there's a variety of different ones. Some are easier to trace and cut out, and some are a little bit harder to trace and cut out, but I want you to take your time. Since this is a collaboration, it wouldn't be okay for someone to do real sloppy work, because their sloppy work is going to go next to someone who puts a lot of effort in, and that's just not fair. So we all need to put in the same amount of effort, and we need to trace neatly and cut out neatly our leaves so that we can assemble our color wheel. So you can start with whatever paper you want first. You're going to flip it over, and you want to erase your name. And just do one at a time. Don't erase all your names on all the papers first, because you might not finish in the first day, and so we need your names on your papers that you don't get to. So whenever you're starting a new paper, you're going to erase your name, and then cut your papers into different colors. And then you're going to flip it over on the back and trace a leaf right in the middle. And then look and see what color it is. So we can usually see our color through our paint. And you're going to write that color in the middle of the leaf that you traced. And then you're going to carefully cut this out. Cut very carefully right on your pencil lines. It's okay if your pencil lines show here on the back, because we're tracing on the back. And you're only going to see the front. So we're not going to trace any leaves on the painted side, so we have pencil lines. We're going to always do it on the back. So there's my orange leaf. And then this can be recycled. Since everybody's doing this at the same time, you don't want your leaves to get mixed up with your neighbor's leaves. So you might want to keep your area nice and tidy. And so as you cut one out, you might want to recycle that and get that out of your way. Then pick a new color and a new leaf. So trace very carefully. That's why I give you these patterns. So you're going to trace around it very carefully. When you do it properly, your traced leaf should look like the leaf pattern that you traced around. And then this is the yellow, so I'm going to write Y in the middle of the leaf, and then I'm going to cut that out very carefully. So you have to cut very slowly around these more complicated leaves, so that you cut them out as neatly as possible. And then I set that aside with my leaves. Recycle this, get that out of the way. I'm trying to keep a very tidy work area. When you trace your leaf, it should look like the leaf that you traced around, and that looks like it. And this is my red, so I'll write an R in the middle. Okay, now I come to my next paper. I'm going to erase my name. Now this maple leaf is probably the hardest to trace and the hardest to cut out. So take your time and cut. Trace slowly and cut slowly. Okay, so now I've used all these leaves, so I'm going to go back through them again, using them again, each one a second time, Okay, now I'm on my last paper. All right, and so I've used all these leaves 2 times, so now I get to pick whatever 2 I want to do on these last 2 papers, whichever 2 that I want. Okay, so once you get all 12 of your beautiful leaves cut out, look how pretty these look all stacked together like this, so pretty. You're going to then bring them up to the whiteboard, and there's going to be a large black paper on the whiteboard. This is much smaller than what we're going to use. And you'll see that I have these different sections, 12 sections cut out, because we're going to create a color wheel as a classroom. So we're going to arrange these in the order of the color wheel. So they're going to be labeled, and so within this pie piece is where you're going to put red orange. So you need to find your red orange leaf, which is this one, and you're going to put that in the section. You'll put a frame of glue on it, and you'll just glue that down to the section. And then the next one is the red leaf. So you put a frame of glue on it and glue that down. Red violet. And it makes a beautiful color wheel. Well, that's just one person's contribution. That's just my contribution. So what's great about this is then the next student is going to put their leaves in each of the sections. So we're going to have a whole row of red orange and a whole row of red and multiple leaves of this color that's been mixed to create this beautiful color wheel, this collaboration of color and collaboration of nature, using these nature shapes and the colors and collaborating as a class to create one large class color wheel. And that's how you collaborate with nature and with color. Good job, second grade.